"Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice tinged with shock. I couldn't believe it. "Really? You're worried about where I found proof of your cheating? Does it even matter? Will that somehow erase the fact that you betrayed me?" I asked, my voice rising as I confronted my wife of 7 years. She hesitated before saying, "It looks bad, I admit, and yes, we kissed, but that's not cheating. We were in public, Ethan, right there in front of people." Her excuse was pathetic. "That's your defense?" I snapped. "No explanation of who this guy is or why you were kissing him. You think it's okay because you didn't sleep with him? Is that what our vows mean to you now?" "Ethan, I can see you're upset, but you're making this a bigger deal than it is. We were just caught off guard," she said, like I was the one being unreasonable. "You haven't even told me his name," I said, sarcasm dripping from my words. "Why should I get worked up over someone I don't even know?" She crossed her arms, clearly irritated. "Does his name really matter? You'd probably just do something stupid like start a fight, and he'd knock you out. I'm not going to let that happen." "Wow, thanks for your honesty," I replied, my voice hot with anger. "You've made your choice, Lily, and now I'm making mine." I turned on my heel and stormed upstairs, my mind racing. She followed me, still confused. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Packing," I said, short and cold. "Packing? Why? What are you doing this for?" she asked, her voice filled with desperation. "I can't handle your lies anymore. I need to leave before I do something I'll regret," I growled, zipping up the suitcase with a sharp tug. "Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. You wouldn't hit me," she said, trying to sound calm, but I could hear the fear creeping in. "Up until today, I thought you'd never cheat on me either. I guess we both don't know each other as well as we thought." I shot back, my heart pounding in my chest. "Cheating? Who said I cheated?" she protested, her voice getting louder. "Kissing him wasn't cheating." "And there you go, lying again," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "I've never cheated on you, Ethan. Not with him, not with anyone," she screamed, her voice cracking. I pulled out another photo from that night and shoved it in her face. "What do you call this? You look pretty cozy with him." Her face went pale. "But how did you get these?" she stammered. "Does it matter? Does knowing where I got them change the fact that you cheated and lied to me?" I demanded, my voice cutting through the silence. She dropped the pictures and started to cry, reaching out to hug me, but I stepped back. "Stay away from me, Lily. I gave you the chance to be honest, but you didn't think I was worth the truth. For Jake's sake, I might have stayed to work this out if you had been upfront, but you're asking for too much now. I'll take my phone, only call me if it's about Jake, and it better be an emergency. If not, I'll block you. Are we clear?" She nodded, defeated, and I walked out, heartbroken and furious all at once. By Friday night, I'd checked into a dingy motel. I needed the weekend to clear my head and figure out what to do next. Divorce seemed inevitable, but the thought of Jake growing up in a broken home, not to mention the alimony and child support, weighed heavily on me. If only she'd owned up to it, if she had just apologized. But she didn't. The loneliness hit hard that night. Without Lily or Jake, the room felt empty. I cried myself to sleep, completely drained. The next day, around noon, my phone started blowing up with messages. Lily had apparently told all our friends about what was going on. I hated that. She shared details of our personal life with everyone before even trying to talk to me about it. I never liked others knowing the intimate problems in our marriage. Lily didn't call me, though. She knew better. She knew I'd block her the second I saw her name pop up. Of all people, it was her best friend, Emily, who reached out. She wanted to meet on Sunday at her place, probably to stage some kind of intervention. I wasn't stupid. I suggested we meet at Angus Steakhouse instead, a public place where I could leave whenever I felt like it. They agreed, reluctantly. I had my reasons for going. I wanted to know why Lily did what she did, and I was curious to see if our so-called friends were in on it too. Maybe they were covering for her. As an account manager, I'm used to confrontations, and I can stay calm under pressure. I needed answers, and I wasn't leaving without them. When I arrived at the restaurant, it was obvious they'd gotten there early, probably to plan out what to say. That made me laugh to myself. They'd all taken their seats, with only one spot left, conveniently next to Lily. She stood up as if to greet me, but I wasn't having it. If you don't mind, I'll sit at the other end of the table, far away from her. Otherwise, I'll sit by myself, I said, my voice steady but firm. Emily jumped in before Lily could respond. Of course, Ethan. Dylan, move so Ethan can sit here. She was trying too hard to play nice. Your dinner is on us, Ethan. Let's all order, she added. We were in some private section of the restaurant, away from curious eyes. Once everyone placed their orders, I cut straight to the point. Before Emily or anyone else could speak, I handed out copies of the photo of Lily kissing the mystery man. It seems like everyone here is so concerned with me and Lily patching things up, I said, letting my voice drip with sarcasm. I was shocked to find out she shared our private life with you all before we even had a chance to talk. This right here is just more evidence of how little respect she has for me and our marriage. Emily started to open her mouth, but I shut her down. Before anyone says a word, I want answers. Look at this picture. Does anyone here know who this man is? Because Lily won't tell me, and I'm sure at least one of you does. If you're really trying to help, start by being honest. If nobody can be straight with me, then we're done here. The room went dead silent. Even Emily didn't know what to say. No one offered up a name. No one even dared to make eye contact with me. I had my answer. Thanks for your time, I said, standing up. I hope someone's hungry enough to eat my steak because I've completely lost my appetite. No one here seems to care about fixing this, I said, standing up. Sorry to waste your time. Lily called after me, begging me to stay, but I didn't look back. None of the others spoke up either. It was clear. They weren't my friends. They were hers. Lily, Emily, and the others sat there, stunned, not expecting me to flip the conversation on them. They were prepared for a calm discussion, but I wasn't playing along. I hadn't mentioned it at the restaurant, but I was done with the motel. After grabbing a quick meal from a fast food place, I headed home. The babysitter was still there, so I paid her and thanked her before getting settled. I moved my stuff into the spare bedroom. Over the weekend, I had bought locks for the bedroom and hall bathroom, just to avoid unnecessary encounters with Lily. Once everything was sorted, I spent the evening with Jake, playing with him, giving him a bath, and tucking him in. That was the only peaceful moment of the day. Lily got home around 10:15 p.m., looking relieved to see me. She found me sitting beside Jake's bed, watching him sleep as tears ran down my face. She tried to say something, but I waved her off. I wasn't about to let her disrupt his sleep. When I closed Jake's door, Lily moved toward me for a hug, but I stepped back. I'm glad you're back, she said, forcing a smile. Let me make you something to eat. We need to talk. I've already eaten, I said flatly. So, where have you been? I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. Out with your lover again? No, I was at the steakhouse with our friends, she explained. They helped me figure out what to say, to get us back on track. I'll talk if you tell me his name. If you can't, there's nothing else to say, I replied coldly. I can't. I just can't, she whispered, her voice trembling. I wish you'd show me, your husband, half the loyalty you're showing him. I'll be in the spare bedroom until further notice. Don't touch me. God knows what you've picked up from him. But don't think this will stop me from being with Jake. If you want to talk, start with his name. If you're willing to throw away our marriage to protect him, fine. Don't talk to me again until you're ready to be honest. She turned away, sobbing softly, but I felt nothing. I was done. A week passed. We didn't speak unless it was about Jake. Then, on Monday night, I came home to find a surprise. The house seemed normal until I walked into the kitchen and found Lily's friends gathered around. The air was thick with tension. They were all smiling, but it was forced. They were clearly nervous, trying not to provoke me. Where's Jake? I asked, cutting straight to the point. He's with the babysitter. He'll be staying there tonight, Lily answered, her tone too casual. Is that so? I replied, irritated that I hadn't been informed. I didn't see your cars outside. We parked a block away so you wouldn't notice, Emily said, smiling brightly. We wanted to surprise you. Well, you've surprised me, I said, keeping my tone even. So, what's this all about? Something change? Yes, honey, Lily said, stepping forward. Let's sit in the living room. We have some things to explain. I nodded but stayed wary. Sure, but I need to use the bathroom first. I stepped into the bathroom and quietly started the recording on my phone, slipping it into my shirt pocket. I had a feeling this was all a setup. When I returned to the living room, I saw two unfamiliar faces among the group. One of them I recognized instantly, Lily's lover. Lily spoke up. Ethan, this is Mark Harris and his wife, Sarah. They've been our friends for a while. I know this is a shock, but you wanted to know who he was, and we thought this was the best way to tell you. And just to be clear, if things get out of hand, the guys here will step in. No one wants anyone to get hurt. I let out a bitter laugh. Now you finally show me his face, I said, shaking my head. You've been more worried about protecting him than caring about how much you hurt me. I turned to Mark, locking eyes with him. Don't worry, I'm not going to touch him. Who knows what kind of diseases he might have passed along to you. The group groaned in disappointment, and Emily quickly jumped in. Ethan, we get that you're upset, but can we keep this civil? You wanted to know who he was, and now you do. We thought you'd want to talk to him, and that's why we arranged this. Mark doesn't need you speaking for him, I said, glaring at her. If he has something to say, he can speak for himself. Mark stood up, extending his hand awkwardly. Look, we've gotten off to a bad start. I hope we can be civil, maybe even friends. I'll treat you with respect, and I hope you'll do the same. May I call you Ethan? I crossed my arms, not moving. First, since we've just met, you can call me Mr. Carter. I don't think we're on a first-name basis, do you? And second, you're asking for respect after you've disrespected my marriage? That's rich. Mark lowered his hand and nodded. Fair enough, Mr. Carter. I was referring to our conversation today, not what's happened in the past. I'd like to explain what occurred between me and the woman you married. Don't call her my wife, I interrupted. That title might not last much longer. I'm considering divorce, which I'm sure you already know. Mark's face tightened, but he kept his composure. How would you like me to refer to her then? Call her the woman I married. That's all she is to me now. Very well, Mr. Carter, Mark said quietly. I'll explain what happened between me and the woman you married. I hope you'll listen. I'm listening, I said, trying to hold back my frustration. Mark took a breath before continuing. Look around, Mr. Carter. You see a room full of attractive people. It's no coincidence that your friends are all good-looking. This group came together because of that. As we grew closer, so did our relationships. Everyone here is in a happy, stable relationship. Our goal here is simple, to build confidence in our soulmates, making us inseparable, Mark continued, acting as if he was preaching some higher truth. We all believe the same about you and the woman you married. Take my wife, Sarah. She's as great as any woman here, and we're going to spend our lives together. No man, including you, can take her from me. This confidence allows us to share with others and grow together. Monogamy is outdated. True love involves trust, closeness, understanding, and sharing. How nice for you, your wife, and everyone else here if that's how you see it, I said, shaking my head. But it has nothing to do with me or the woman I married. Mark leaned forward. But don't you see the benefits of trust, understanding, and security in your relationship? You and Lily could grow so much by embracing this, he said, gesturing to include the group around him. If what you're saying is true, Mr. Harris, then you just called every woman in this room a strumpet, including the one I married. I'm disgusted that you changed her morals so easily. A gentleman never interferes in another man's marriage like you have, I shot back. I see where you're coming from, Mr. Carter, he replied. But this isn't one-sided. You, too, are invited to participate. You could be with any woman here if you wanted. When you joined this group, it was only a matter of time before you were asked to participate fully. If you hadn't reacted so harshly, Lily would have discussed the benefits with you. Instead, she panicked. We just need to make you comfortable with the idea. I pretended to consider his words, then turned to Lily, locking eyes with her. Is this true? You agreed to test the waters with Mr. Harris without telling me? Lily nodded, looking nervous. I heard these experiences strengthen marriages, and I wanted the same for us. Being with Mark was a way to see if it could help us. My love for you hasn't changed. I was just trying to learn something I could share with you later, she said, a small smile creeping in as if this was finally a real conversation. So, you want me to believe that one session with him suddenly made you an expert? I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. It wasn't your first time, was it? Lily looked down, unable to meet my eyes. Mark jumped in. Don't you see, Mr. Carter? We've helped her understand the benefits. You can join in, too. It's all about mutual growth. So, you think you're some kind of Casanova? I asked, glaring at him. Mr. Carter, I'm experienced. I help less experienced lovers, like the woman you married, to grow. You'll benefit from what she learns. Everyone goes through phases of complacency. I looked back at Lily. When did I ever resist trying something new? If you wanted to spice things up, why didn't you talk to me instead of jumping into bed with him? Please don't misunderstand me, Ethan, she said, her voice almost pleading. You're a sweet and gentle lover, which I need most of the time. But sometimes, I want something more forceful. Mark showed me that. He's not trying to replace you in my heart. I felt a storm brewing inside, but I forced myself to stay calm. It was clear. Our relationship was beyond repair. But I wasn't done. Now I needed to gather everything I could to bring their lives down, just as they had destroyed mine. Thank you, Ethan, Mark said, his voice full of self-assurance. Now do you see our group in a better light? Will you and Lily join? Your marriage will grow stronger, I guarantee it. I forced a grin, playing along. I'll need more time to digest all of this. Lily and I need to talk privately. After that, we'll let you know. Sound good? Mark smiled, though it looked forced. Sure, take as much time as you need, he said, though I could tell he wanted an answer immediately. Then, without warning, 3 large men grabbed me, holding me in place. Though I was surprised, I wasn't scared. Lily walked over, pulled my phone from my pocket, and started deleting the videos I had recorded. Ethan, we want to trust you, but until you're one of us, we have to protect ourselves. You were recording tonight's events. We can't let that happen. She handed the phone to Mark, who checked it. Is it all gone? He asked. Yes, Lily replied. No recordings left. She placed my phone back in my pocket, clearly committed to their group. I gave them the look of defeat they wanted. Mark patted me on the back. Don't be so down, Ethan. I'd like to think you were recording just to help decide who you wanted to be with first in our group, but we can't take that risk. They all quietly left, leaving me alone. I grabbed my keys and headed to the garage. Lily followed me, asking, Where are you going? To pick up Jake, if that's okay, I replied, hiding my irritation. I was hoping we could, reconnect tonight, she said, trying to sound seductive. I miss my son. I'll be back soon, I replied and left. I drove to Angus Steakhouse, realizing I hadn't eaten dinner. The meal didn't disappoint. As I ate, I mentally reviewed the night's events, solidifying my plan. Mrs. Stevenson, our babysitter, was grateful for the generous tip. I might need her help again soon. Jake was thrilled to see me and couldn't stop laughing on the drive home. I bathed and fed him, then tucked him into bed. Later, Lily informed me she was cooking something light, but I told her I'd already eaten and she should take care of herself. Offended, she brushed it off, not wanting to argue in front of Jake since we both had work tomorrow. That night, as I got ready for bed, Lily wanted to talk. What's going on, Ethan? You seemed interested in Mark's offer at first, but then you shut me out. What happened? She asked, confused. I'm glad you asked, I replied, a plan forming in my mind. Let me answer with a few questions of my own. Maybe your answers will help clear things up. Go ahead, Lily said, her voice shaky. Just before they left, 3 men grabbed me in my own house. You said nothing. Is that true? I asked, staring her down. It wasn't like that, she objected quickly. Wasn't it? Did 3 men grab me? Yes or no, Lily? Did it happen? Yes, she said, looking down. I cut her off. Yes, it did. Now, did you protest or stop them? Yes or no? No, she admitted reluctantly. Exactly. We're starting to understand. Next question. Did I ask you to take my phone and delete anything from it? Be honest, Lily. Yes or no? No, she replied quietly, her voice barely audible. Right. So let me get this straight and listen carefully, because I don't want to repeat myself. You admit you didn't object when I was restrained in my own home. You also admit you took my phone and deleted the recordings, not at my request, but at someone else's. Is that true, Lily? Yes or no? Yes, she whispered, her face tense with guilt. Good, we're almost there. Since I didn't hear anyone ask you to delete anything from my phone, you must have agreed to do that all on your own. Is that correct? I pressed, watching her closely. Lily hesitated, then nodded. Yes, that's correct. I hadn't thought of it that way. You make it seem like a betrayal, she said, her voice trembling. It is a betrayal, Lily. Now you see why I'm done with this. You've shown your true colors. You're on their side, not mine. That's why I'm going to bed alone. I don't want to be around someone who so indifferently betrays me. Lily started sobbing as I walked away, leaving her in the hallway. I locked the door behind me, needing space. Around 4 in the morning, I heard her trying to open the door, but the lock kept her out. The next morning, Tuesday, I knew what I had to do. At work, I found Alex, the vice president. Alex, can you recommend a good divorce attorney? One who will fight for the husband. Alex looked stunned. Please tell me you're not asking for yourself, Ethan. Unfortunately, I am, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I thought you might know someone. Alex frowned. I'm friends with Matt Price from our legal firm. He can recommend someone. Let me call him and get back to you. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate it. Don't worry, Ethan. This stays between us, he assured me, putting a hand on my shoulder. You don't know how much that means to me, Alex. Thanks. By Matt's recommendation, I contacted Nora Grant's office and set up a meeting for 2:30 that afternoon. When I arrived, I was surprised to find out it was Nora Grant. She explained her caseload was 70% women, but she fought hard for all her clients. Despite the situation, I managed to convince her to take my case. Nora warned me I'd be paying child support until Jake turned 18, including for college expenses. I told her I had no issue providing for my son and hoped for 50-50 custody. For alimony, she said I'd likely pay for 3 to 5 years, depending on the judge's decision. In our state, it's usually 1 year of alimony for every 2 years of marriage, with a maximum of 10 years. The idea of paying Lily while she enjoyed herself with other men made my blood boil, but I knew I'd have to deal with it. Lily and I had rented our house for 4 years, with plans to build our dream home, but those dreams were gone now. At least the house wouldn't need to be sold or fought over. Jake wasn't attached to it, and if Lily stayed there, I wouldn't care. I could never sleep in the master bedroom again, knowing she'd likely used it with her lover. Nora explained that an uncontested divorce in our state takes about 8 months, while a contested one takes a year. I hoped for the shorter timeline. The thought of staying married to a traitor held no appeal. She mentioned there wasn't much financial advantage in filing for infidelity, but it could help in custody battles. We agreed to have the paperwork ready by Thursday afternoon, and I asked her to serve Lily at her work on Friday at 10 a.m., so her colleagues could witness it. After finalizing the details and fees, I had one more question. What about living arrangements until the divorce is final? What's your concern? Nora asked, folding her hands on the desk. My main issue is time with my son. 8 months to a year is a long time. I don't want to be an absent father. Would it be inappropriate or illegal for me to keep living in the same house to be close to him? It's not uncommon, but it can be challenging, Nora replied. How so? Once she's served, she'll be very upset. If you're living nearby, she might retaliate. Are you ready for that? I nodded. Absolutely. I can handle her anger, no problem. As long as we're legally separated, I'll manage. Be prepared, Nora warned. She may not want the divorce. Cheating wives often want both the husband and the affair. She could try to stop the process, but that's a legal matter, right? She can't just stop the divorce because she wants to, I said, frowning. True, but she could complicate things, Nora explained. How? If you have any carnal relations with her before the divorce is finalized, the timeline resets to 0. The state will see it as a sign you're trying to reconcile, and you'll have to wait another 8 months. I can see her trying to seduce me to stall the process, I admitted, feeling the weight of the situation. Exactly, Nora nodded. You need to be on guard. I have an iron will, Nora. I won't fall for it. You don't have to, she said, leaning forward. She could claim you had an affair with her, and unless you can prove otherwise, which is almost impossible, the timeline resets. That hit me hard. I realized just how tricky this divorce could get, but I was determined to see it through. Lily had already lost me, and now it was just a matter of time before she realized it too. The judge will find it hard to believe you weren't intimate while living together, Bea said firmly. I've seen this before, Ethan, and I strongly advise against it. I pushed back. If she claims we were, wouldn't she need to provide specific details like time and place? I could refute those. She would need details, but it would still be your word against hers, and if she's convincing, tearfully persuasive even, the judge might take her side, be cautioned. Leave that to me. Thank you, Bea, for everything, I said, feeling a little more reassured. After wrapping up with Bea, I headed home, knowing another legal battle was looming. Lily usually got home before I did, and sure enough, when I walked in, she was cooking dinner. I avoided the kitchen and went straight upstairs to shower, using the hall bathroom to minimize interactions. It was like practicing how to live separately under the same roof. After my shower, as I headed back to the spare bedroom, she was standing in the hallway. Dinner will be ready soon. Jake's in his high chair. You smell nice, she said, trying to sound casual. I'll be down in a minute. Thanks, I replied, unlocking my bedroom door, feeling the tension thick in the air. As we ate in silence, Lily finally spoke up. I'd like to explain about the cell phone last night. Go ahead, I said, keeping my tone calm. Mark knew you were recording and said it wasn't fair to expose everyone like that. They couldn't leave until the threat was neutralized. He suggested I delete the recordings myself while you watched. I see, I replied coolly. And why did they trust you to do that to your own husband? Because I gave them my word, she said, looking confused. Ethan, I don't understand. Understand what? I shot back. Didn't you give your word to me on our wedding day? Her face fell, and silence followed my words. She was caught. Darling, I don't want you to think I'm on their side. I'm not, Lily insisted. Really? What if 3 men had grabbed you in our home? Do you think I would have stood by quietly? What choice did you have, Ethan? They could have easily taken you, she reasoned. That's true, I agreed. But I would have fought for you. I would have been on your side. But last night, you acted like one of them. I'm sorry, Ethan. I explained about the phone. I don't know what else to say, she said, sounding frustrated. There's nothing more to say, is there? I joked bitterly. After a pause, she shifted the conversation. How did you find those pictures, Ethan? I'd like to know. I smirked. I'm sure you would. Maybe one of your friends isn't as loyal to your cause as you think. What if a coworker sent them to me? Who? Please, just tell me. Was it a man or a woman? She asked, her curiosity piqued. I can't tell you, Lily. Why not? She demanded. I gave my word, I said with a grin, throwing her own justification back in her face. She realized she wasn't getting anywhere with that line of questioning, so she tried a new angle. Did you enjoy watching? No, I replied bluntly. I just saw a bunch of animals. That's not fair, Ethan. It's not supposed to be emotional. It's meant to strengthen our marriage, she argued. How's that working out? I shot back. Our marriage is hanging by a thread. I already feel closer to you, she added sarcastically. Don't be like that, Ethan. You don't understand. Lily, has our life become so dull that you think we can't survive without bringing others into our bed? I asked, my disbelief evident. I never said that. It's not about survival. Don't you want more than just to survive? Shouldn't we take risks to strengthen our marriage? What's the harm in that? The harm is in the destruction of the trust we once had. Your experiment is tearing us apart. Maybe your friends don't care about fidelity, but I do. I don't trust you anymore, Lily. You've proven you'll do whatever you want behind my back. Why didn't you talk to me before jumping into bed with another man? I knew you'd react like this. I thought if I participated first and saw the benefits, I could show you how it would help us. Once you saw the improvements, you'd understand, she said, trying to justify her actions. So you and Mark see yourselves as enlightened, thinking I need to be spoon-fed this superior knowledge. How generous of you, I said sarcastically. She didn't miss the sarcasm. Let me show you what I've learned. I picked up techniques from Mark and watched Sarah closely last night. It's all to improve our love life, not destroy it. You'll see, you won't regret it. Every time I look at you now, I cringe. I'm not interested in kissing you, let alone anything else. You've given away what used to be mine, shared freely with another man, I said, my anger rising. It was never yours, Ethan. I'm not an object you own, she snapped back. You're right, I agreed, my voice low. I never claimed to own you. I thought you were mine because you promised yourself to me. But now you've taken that back and given it to someone else. You've broken something in me, Lily. I'm not sure it can be fixed. Tears welled up in her eyes as she started sobbing. That was the last real conversation we had until Friday. Over the next few days, I focused on Jake. I spent every free moment with him, taking care of him, bathing him, feeding him. It became a sort of silent competition between Lily and me, who could spend the most time with him. Jake loved the attention, and it gave me a sense of purpose. During those quiet days, I also started researching Mark and his wife, Sarah. I found next to nothing. The only record for Mark Harris was of a homeless man arrested downtown for soliciting money. The photo and age didn't match the Mark who had ruined my marriage, but it made me wonder who he really was. I'll keep digging. There's more to this than Lily knows, and I'm determined to find it. I arranged for Lily to be served the divorce papers at 10 a.m. on Friday, knowing I'd be in a meeting with the local chapter of facilities managers. These meetings usually last a few hours, including lunch, and are sponsored by contractors advertising their services. If Lily called, my secretary would confirm my extended absence, and I'd leave my phone on silent, only answering emergency work calls. I wasn't avoiding her. I just wanted to give her time to process the shock before we talked. When I got back to work, I saw multiple messages from her. I called her back, and she answered almost immediately, her voice filled with frustration. About time, Ethan. Are you serious? You had me served in front of my friends. Do you know how embarrassed I was? Are you really divorcing me over this? I told you it was nothing. Why won't you return my calls? Why won't you talk to me? My secretary should have told you I was in a management meeting. I called you as soon as I could. I have a job to do, Lily. And when have I refused to talk to you? You've been avoiding me for 2 days, she snapped. I'm talking to you now, aren't I? Let's finish this conversation tonight when we have more time, I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. She started crying. I don't want a divorce, Ethan. Please don't divorce me. We'll talk tonight, okay, Lily? Okay, she said, sniffling. I love you. Tonight, then. Goodbye, Lily, I said, ending the call. I had one more short meeting about a lab issue before I headed home early, knowing Friday afternoons tend to be quiet. Expecting she wouldn't feel like cooking, I picked up Chick-fil-A for dinner and texted her. When she arrived home shortly after me, I grabbed Jake from the car and carried him inside. She hugged me as I held him, but I kept my distance emotionally. I helped feed Jake, who was at the stage where food was more fun to throw than to eat. Lily thanked me for the takeout, and we sat together, cooing over Jake as she cried quietly. After Jake was asleep, I found Lily in the living room, staring at the divorce papers. She took a deep breath before speaking. I'm sorry, Ethan. Okay? Is that what you want to hear? She asked, her voice trembling. It's the first apology since this all started. What exactly are you apologizing for, Lily? I asked, my tone stern. I'm sorry you saw those pictures. I can only imagine how uncomfortable it was for you, she said, trying to sound sincere. So, you're sorry I found out, not sorry you cheated. Got it, I replied, feeling my anger rise. Don't say that, Ethan. Mark told me once you saw the benefits of our group, you'd accept it. You could be with other women just like I've been with other men. It's mutual, she said, trying to justify her actions. Of course that's what he said. The real shame is you trusted his words over mine. He doesn't know me or our marriage, and apparently, neither do you. She hesitated. I realize now I acted wrongly. You're right, I should have talked to you first. Mark convinced me things would go smoothly if I did, but now I'm not sure. Why don't you call off the divorce, and we can get back to normal? Normal? That train derailed when you cheated, Lily. Just sign the papers and let's move on with our lives. You don't want Jake growing up in a single-parent family, calling another man daddy, do you? Reconciliation is the best option for him, she argued. I wouldn't want him calling another woman mom either. If you remarried after the divorce, I shot back. That's true, she admitted. You should have thought of all this before you broke your vows, Lily. It would hurt to hear him call someone else daddy, but it's better than living in a home full of lies. I could never be part of your infidelity group. They may be attractive, but they're disgusting to me. I can never be intimate with you again, Lily. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. You're just saying that to hurt me, and it's working, she said, her voice breaking. What if I gave it all up? I swear I'll never get involved in that again. I'll even cut ties with those friends if it means keeping you and Jake. You two are the best things in my life. I'm sorry you think I've turned my back on us, but it's not true. I value you both above everything, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I hear your words, but I don't believe you. You've already proven yourself to be a liar. I can't trust you anymore. Just sign the papers and let's be done with it, I said firmly. I'm never signing those papers. I don't want a divorce, and I'll fight you every step of the way, no matter how long it takes. I may have lost you for now, Ethan, but I'm not giving up. I'll do whatever it takes to win you back. I'll crawl to you on my hands and knees if I have to, she vowed, her desperation clear. Too bad you didn't have enough faith in us to stay true to your vows. Once a cheater, always a cheater. That's how I'll always see you. She broke down into sobs, realizing how hard this fight would be. What now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hope you don't expect me to leave. I'm staying here with Jake. We have nowhere else to go. You're right. Jake is my world now, and I won't be apart from him. I'll stay here during the divorce. Don't worry, I won't get in your way. I don't need you to do my laundry, cook, or clean for me. You take care of your needs, and I'll take care of mine. We'll both take care of Jake. But don't touch me, Lily. You're disgusting to me now. Her sobs grew louder, but I turned away, already feeling like I was miles away from her, even though we were still under the same roof. We'll coexist until the divorce is finalized, but there will be no reconciliation, I stated firmly. Lily's hope faded into dejection. I hear you, Ethan, but divorce is a long road, and a lot can happen in that time. I'm going to win you back, honey. I swear I will, she declared, still clinging to false hope. As long as you keep associating with those friends, you don't have a chance, I warned. I won't socialize with them again. If that's what it takes, I'll turn my back on them. Do you want me to quit my job and be a full-time mom? She asked, desperate to find some way to fix things. No, it's too late for that. Besides, if you did, I'd just end up paying more in child support once the divorce is final, I said bluntly. She didn't like that response, but she forced a cheerful smile. From that moment, I treated our situation as a temporary business arrangement. I was determined not to let anything stop me from spending time with Jake. For the next few weeks, we communicated politely, speaking only when necessary. Surprisingly, we came to several agreements through my attorney. I agreed to pay the rent while she covered the utilities. I canceled all the bills in our joint names and reissued them in hers. Both our cars were paid off, so we each covered our own gas and insurance. We handled our own meals, making financial independence easier than I'd expected. She didn't complain, knowing I was simply enforcing the divorce terms she refused to sign. Lily made every effort to engage me in conversation, but I remained polite and distant. I never initiated any discussions, and I never asked her for anything. One day, while searching for socks in my desk drawer, I realized the 3 photos of her and her lover were missing. I knew she had taken them. Upon closer inspection, I noticed fine scratches on my door's lock, confirming that she had likely had a locksmith make a key. The next day, I replaced both the bedroom and bathroom locks with new ones, keeping the keys hidden. She didn't want me to know she could access my room, and I didn't want her to know she couldn't anymore. Her continued betrayal confirmed that divorce was the right decision. After a few months of an uneasy truce, she began asking me to do couple-like activities or take her out. I always declined politely. She missed her friends, but she was holding to her promise not to socialize with them. Then, I started receiving calls and messages from her friends, inviting me out or offering to keep their distance. I blocked every number without responding. In mid-December, she invited me to her company's Christmas party. I declined, citing my commitment to babysit Jake, and wished her a good time. The following weekend was my company's holiday party. I planned to attend alone, but she didn't want that. She dropped Jake off with the babysitter and followed me to the event. When she arrived, she looked stunning and tried making small talk, but I kept my distance. Alex, the vice president, asked if we had reconciled. I explained the situation, and he laughed, admiring my resolve. I told him my focus was spending time with Jake, and he understood. After the party, I picked Jake up, and he slept all the way home. I expected Lily to be upset, but she seemed oddly grateful for any bit of attention she received. Over the following weeks, she began wearing less and less clothing around the house, clearly trying to lure me back in. I used my engineering skills to lower the house temperature, hoping she'd wear more. It partially worked, and after 2 weeks, I returned the thermostat to normal. At least I'd tried. 5 months later, she mentioned having dinner with Emily on Saturday nights and asked if I minded watching Jake. I agreed, as long as no one else came into the house. On those nights, I joined my company's bowling league and enjoyed the time out, especially with the attention Jake got from the ladies. It was far better than sitting at home, wondering about Lily. One evening, I arrived home later than usual, and she asked where Jake and I had been. I told her the truth, which upset her. She then asked if she could come along next time. I told her honestly that I only left the house when she did. That didn't sit well with her, but pleasing her was no longer my concern. She often asked how we could rebuild our marriage if I never gave her a chance. She still hadn't signed the divorce papers, which had already dragged on for months. 6 months into the process, my attorney, B. Grant, informed me that Lily's lawyer had successfully argued for 10 mandatory marriage counseling sessions, 2 per week. I was legally required to attend and answer every question the counselor asked. I asked B if I could repeat the same short sentence to every question. She confirmed that as long as it was relevant to our marriage, it was fine. Relieved, I thanked her and hung up. Lily's lawyer had ensured the counselor would favor her and vilify me, but I didn't care what they thought as long as I followed the law. At every session, regardless of what Lily or the therapist said, I repeated the same sentence. I don't want to stay married to a promiscuous woman. It frustrated both of them to no end. Despite their attempts to pressure me, I remained calm and polite. After the 5th session, the therapist canceled the remaining ones, calling them unproductive. The months passed without much change. I spent every spare moment with Jake, strengthening our bond. But then, 4 days before our final divorce hearing, Lily suddenly moved out with Jake. That same day, I was served with a restraining order. My attorney, B, contacted me with bad news. "Ethan, they've filed some serious accusations against you," she said, her voice tense. "B, you know me better than that." "Not a single word of it is true," I said, trying to stay calm, though I could feel my frustration building. "Okay, Ethan, I needed to hear it from you. I'll fight for you, but it will be difficult without solid evidence. Has Lily provided the necessary details for her allegations?" B asked, her tone serious. "Yes, I have everything in a folder at my office," I replied. "Good. Email me the information as soon as possible. And remember, you can't contact her or Jake until I say otherwise. If she calls, hang up immediately. Understood?" "Be instructed." "Got it," I said, feeling the weight of the situation settle in. 2 days later, I returned home from work and was shocked to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table. Her car wasn't outside, meaning she must have come with someone else. My first instinct was to leave to avoid violating the restraining order, but she called out, "Ethan, if you want to see Jake again, turn around and listen." I stopped, keeping my distance, but said nothing. "Just listen," she said, her voice cold and calculating. "First, hand me your phone." I placed it on the table. She turned it off, making sure I couldn't record anything. "I tried to reason with you, but you wouldn't budge. I had to take drastic measures. I claimed we were intimate to delay the divorce, but Mark convinced me to make up the story about you hitting me. We both know it's a lie, but I need full custody of Jake. It's cruel, but necessary. If you drop the divorce and agree to join our group, I'll lift the restraining order. We can move back in together, and Jake won't have to live in a broken home." Her words were like a punch to the gut. I kept my face neutral. "I'll give you my answer soon. For now, please leave," I said firmly. She smirked as she walked past me, knowing she had leverage. I watched as a shiny Lexus pulled up, driven by none other than Mark Harris. I had a lot to process. Nora informed me my presence wasn't required at the divorce hearing, but I wanted to be there. Before entering the courtroom, Lily appeared in the hallway, her voice dripping with malice. "You had your chance, Ethan. I'm going to tear you apart in court. Jake will call another man daddy, and I'll marry a real man, not a coward like you." She spat in my face and stormed off, leaving onlookers confused. I wiped my face and entered the courtroom, sitting quietly in the back. I could only hope my lawyer was as good as her reputation. Our case wasn't heard until the afternoon. Lily testified first, tearfully recounting the fabricated assaults, listing specific dates and times. She wanted full custody, child support, and alimony, and even jail time for me. Despite her dramatic testimony, B remained calm, doodling in her notes as Lily's lawyer painted me as a jealous, abusive husband. When Lily's lawyer finished, B stood up. "Mrs. Carter, are you absolutely certain of the dates and details of these alleged incidents?" B asked. "Yes, ma'am. I documented everything carefully," Lily replied confidently. "So you swear under oath that your allegations are entirely accurate?" B pressed. "Absolutely," Lily said tearfully. "No further questions, Your Honor," B said, sitting down. Lily and her lawyer looked smug, thinking they had this in the bag. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Mr. John Martin to the stand," B requested. A plain-looking man took the stand, and Lily's lawyer seemed puzzled. "Please state your full name for the record," B began. "John Winford Martin." "And how did you come to know my client, Mr. Carter?" "About 14 months ago, Mr. Carter hired me to investigate his wife, Mrs. Lily Carter, for suspected infidelity. We confirmed it and provided him with 3 photographs of her with another man." "And do you have copies of these photographs with you today?" "Yes, I do," John replied. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit these photographs into evidence," B said calmly. Lily's confident smirk vanished as the courtroom fell silent. The judge accepted the photos, reviewed them, and handed them to the bailiff for processing. "Thank you, Your Honor." "John, was that the end of your association with Mr. Carter?" Nora asked. "No, ma'am. Mr. Carter was concerned the affair might be ongoing and asked for guidance. I recommended installing hidden surveillance cameras and microphones throughout the house to monitor and record conversations, secret meetings, and any inappropriate activities," John explained. "And did Mr. Carter hire your firm for this?" Nora inquired. "Yes, ma'am. We installed the equipment the next day while Mr. and Mrs. Carter were at work," John confirmed. "Objection, Your Honor," Lily's attorney interrupted. "I request that all evidence obtained through hidden cameras be declared inadmissible. Mr. Carter could have easily altered those recordings to smear my client." Judge Cora Feldman turned to B. "Before I rule on this objection, I'd like to know more." "Attorney Grant?" "Thank you, Your Honor." B turned back to John. "John, can you explain the nature of the surveillance system installed in Mr. Carter's home?" John nodded. "We installed a high-resolution digital surveillance system with multiple cameras and microphones placed strategically throughout the house. The system records continuously, storing data in secure, tamper-proof cloud storage. The recordings are time-stamped and encrypted to ensure they remain unaltered." "John, can you confirm that the recordings submitted to the court are in their original, unaltered state?" B asked. "Yes, ma'am. The recordings were retrieved directly from secure cloud storage, untouched," John assured. "Thank you, John." "Your Honor, this confirms the integrity of the evidence," B said, turning to the judge. Judge Feldman took a moment to consider. "Based on the testimony regarding the security and integrity of the system, I overrule the objection. The evidence is admissible." "Thank you, Your Honor," B replied. She then turned back to John. "John, did you review the footage from the surveillance system?" "Yes, I did," John confirmed. "And what did you find?" B asked. The footage shows Mrs. Carter meeting with multiple individuals, engaging in activities that support Mr. Carter's claims of her infidelity. Additionally, there was no evidence of any of the abuse that Mrs. Carter described, John stated. No further questions, Your Honor, Nora concluded. Thank you, Mr. Martin. You may step down, Judge Feldman said. Lily's attorney looked unsettled, and Lily herself seemed visibly shaken as the truth began to unravel. The smirk she had worn earlier was gone, replaced with a look of dread. Everything she thought she had gotten away with was now coming to light, and I could feel the weight lifting from my shoulders. As I sat in the back of the courtroom, I watched as he skillfully dismantled the lies that had been built against me. The photos, the surveillance footage. It all painted a clear picture, one that contradicted every false claim Lily had made. For the first time in a long while, I felt like the truth was finally on my side. We ensure the chain of evidence is closely monitored. Mr. Carter's only involvement was replacing the camera batteries monthly, John added. Judge Feldman nodded. I've seen you in my courtroom before, Mr. Martin. Your firm has a solid reputation. The objection is overruled. Thank you, Your Honor, Nora said. She turned back to John. John, you heard Mrs. Carter's accusations of assault. Based on the dates she provided, do her claims have any merit? No, ma'am, they don't, John responded confidently. What makes you so certain? Nora asked. When we reviewed the footage from those dates, there was no violence. Mr. Carter was playing with his son, and Mrs. Carter was in another room. The house was peaceful during the alleged assaults, John explained. Lily and her attorney looked away, avoiding eye contact. Do you have additional information regarding her allegations? Nora prompted. Yes. I have a transcript of a phone call Mrs. Carter made the day before she moved out. In it, she discussed hating to see her husband mistreated and mentioned someone else hitting her to make it look like Mr. Carter did, John said. Objection. Hearsay. Lily's attorney interrupted. I can provide the original tapes. The transcript accurately reflects her words, John replied. Lily's lawyer fell silent, not pressing the issue further. Thank you, John. No further questions, Nora concluded. Judge Feldman turned to Lily's attorney. Would you like to question the witness? No questions, Your Honor, Lily's lawyer said, clearly defeated. Thank you, Mr. Martin. You may step down, Judge Feldman said. John left the courtroom. The judge looked over her notes and addressed the court. It's clear that an innocent man is being falsely accused in an attempt to gain full custody. Mrs. Carter has perjured herself, a felony punishable by up to 36 months in prison. This transcript will be forwarded to the district attorney for potential prosecution. I hereby grant full custody of Jake Carter to his father, Ethan Carter. Mrs. Carter will have visitation rights at Mr. Carter's discretion. I nodded in agreement, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. As for alimony, I award $1,000 per month to Lily Carter for 42 months. The checking and savings accounts will be divided equally, and both parties will retain their own retirement accounts. There will be no child support due to Mr. Carter's primary custody, the judge continued. Mr. Carter, would you like to stay in the current residence? Your Honor, I don't plan to stay there. Lily can keep the house, I responded. Very well, the lease will transfer to Mrs. Carter, Judge Feldman confirmed. She turned to Lily, who stood shakily. You have 8 hours to return the child to Mr. Carter. Failure to comply will result in contempt of court charges. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Lily said tearfully. All restraining orders are lifted, and I grant the divorce in Carter versus Carter. You will both receive final decrees within 30 days, the judge declared. As we left the courtroom, Lily turned to me. Ethan, I'll bring Jake to your new place after dinner. I just want to spend a few more hours with him. That won't be necessary. I'm moving into a new apartment today. Bring Jake tomorrow at noon, I said, handing her the address. She nodded, clearly defeated. I'm sorry. This isn't how I wanted it to end. Well, now you can enjoy the life you wanted without me, I replied sarcastically. Good luck with your next open marriage. Thank you, she said, surprising me, for not going after Mark and Sarah. They're good people. No problem, but I'm more interested in your job. Tomorrow, I'll be filing a lawsuit against your company for their role in destroying my marriage. Robert Dixon will be named. He's your manager, right? Lily's face went pale. Why drag him into this? He ruined my marriage. I'll make sure his wife, Anna, knows too, I said coldly. He almost cost me my son. His children deserve to know the truth. You'll destroy his family, she pleaded. He nearly destroyed mine, I replied. If you stay close, maybe you'll get your dream man after all. Just be prepared. He might be jobless soon, along with your call center girlfriends. You want us all fired? She asked, horrified. Don't worry. Your job is safe, I said. I promised your company I wouldn't publicize this if they kept you employed. Jake needs a mother, and you need a paycheck. But I'll make sure everyone else pays for their role. She looked crushed, unable to argue further. I walked away, knowing my focus was now on Jake and our future, free from the chaos she had brought into our lives. Free at last.